What is going on, people? Welcome back to Double Clutch Auto Reviews, and thank you so much for tuning in for another review video. My name is Mark, and today we have for you guys the Mazda MX-5 Miata RF Grand Touring. And this one is a 2020 model, the model year after the ND chassis was revised and refined into the ND2. Being a Miata fan, obviously I have my own 1990 NA Miata, and just as a car enthusiast in general, I've always wanted to get behind the wheel of one of these and really put it through its paces, to see just why everyone that enjoys the physical act of driving seems to adore this car. I also want to see how it compares to mine being over 30 years younger, and is this in fact the best Miata yet? Let's find out. And I have to thank none other than Tasca Ford and Tasca Mazda of Seekonk, located here at 200 Fall River Avenue in Seekonk, Massachusetts, for letting me drive this car for you guys today. They are an awesome dealership to work with. They have tons of new and used cars on their lot right now. If you want to come check them out, I will put all of their contact information, including their website links, phone numbers, and address in the description below. Tell them Mark from Double Clutch Auto Review sent you. And now diving into the review, let's start with the looks. Rady's Ride said that this car has body lines that appear as if they were formed from a single piece of clay. And I completely agree with him. The car is very well proportioned and it's overall very attractive. This one is black with gray wheels and a red and black interior, but I think my favorite color on this car is Soul Red. That color absolutely sets this car off. It is a gorgeous deep red color, and I think it accentuates those body lines formed from a single piece of clay in the perfect way. One thing that I'm not too keen on with the exterior styling is where they place the backup camera. On this black car, it really doesn't look that bad because it blends in with it, obviously, but on a white car or really any other lighter color, I feel like it just stands out and you can just see it right there looking like a big old button. I think it just upsets the body lines, and I'm not a fan of that. I wish they could have implemented that better. Maybe putting it just above the license plate. That's just me. This one is an RF model, which is essentially the hardtop convertible, which isn't necessarily for everybody, particularly due to the increased weight and increased cost. But the pros of the RF. First off, the car looks awesome with the top up or down. You still get all the awesomeness of the convertible aspect, and you have a little bit reduced wind noise compared to the soft top, and significantly better security and longevity of the top. However, with that being said, the RF is about $5,000 more than the base model Sport ND, which is a pretty big difference in cash for a car in this price segment, especially considering that this is one of the best bang for your buck value entry-level sports cars there is. I really wouldn't blame someone for wanting to go with the soft top version of the ND2 instead of the RF, mainly because if they plan on putting this car in a garage, they're not often worried about the lack of security with the soft top compared to a hard top. Plus, the weight savings you get with the soft top version is a huge deal for a car this light with less than 200 horsepower. One of the coolest factors that the MX-5 Miata proves is that power isn't everything. However, weight to power ratio is significantly important. There are so many other elements besides pure amounts of power that play a critical role in how much fun a vehicle is to drive. Also, the Miata proves that modern cars don't have to be heavy. My 1990 Miata has a curb weight of around 2,116 pounds. Mind you, that is a 34-year-old car specifically designed to be a lightweight roadster. This 2020 Miata weighs only 2,341 pounds with all of the modern safety features it has to have. That is crazy. And the ND2 only has 19 less horsepower than the Scion FRS or Subaru BRZ chassis, yet it weighs almost 450 pounds less. That's like removing a sumo wrestler plus a keg of beer out of your car. Mazda accomplished this amazing feat with several clever engineering tactics. One of the things they did was they took weight out of the air conditioning system. They also made the trunk have a wider opening, which has a double benefit of making it easier to put items in and out of it while also using less material. Mazda also used higher tensile strength steel, making it obviously stronger, but that also meant they could use less of it to gain the same amount of rigidity they needed for this chassis. They also used aluminum body panels all over the car except for the doors and the windshield frame, obviously for safety purposes. They needed those to be higher impact resistant. All of these aspects make the car much lighter than its competition, positively affecting its braking, handling, and acceleration. You can't deny physics, folks. Along with it being almost 300 pounds lighter, the ND chassis is also smaller in every dimension, width, length, and even ground clearance over the previous generation Miata, the NC, even though it's newer. It also has better visibility than the NC, despite the fact that the seat sits lower. The engine placement inside the engine bay is also very far back, as you can see. The front of the valve cover is pretty much right in line with the front strut towers. What this means is that the ND Miata is practically a front mid-engine car, which is absolutely awesome. With all of that weight being centralized and tucked as close to the middle of the car as possible, that contributes to even better weight distribution, as well as cornering ability and feedback. Increased performance in pretty much every avenue. No wonder people think this car is so fun. There is also no silly plastic engine cover on this car. Scotty Kilmer would love this. You can actually see the engine. Now, moving on to the interior. The seats feel good. I did not feel too cramped at all in here. I'm about 6 feet, 200 pounds. Yes, it's a small car, but it's only 2 seats. You and another normal-sized person would fit perfectly fine in here. Unless you're Andre the Giant, I wouldn't worry about it. I am a big fan of the body-colored painted piece on top of the door card. That's a really nice touch. I love it when automakers bring a little bit of the exterior into the interior in a classy way. Overall, I think it's a great looking car on the outside, and I also think Mazda did a knockout job on the inside too. It's pretty nice in here in my opinion, especially considering this car's price tag. And the ND2 chassis finally added a tilting and telescoping steering wheel to the Miata. This is an absolute game changer for bigger people looking to get into the Miata game. The infotainment system is good. It's relatively intuitive and easy to figure out. I like it a lot. The screen jutting out from the middle of the dash as if it's an iPad glued onto the top of it is not the best look for many people. Personally, I don't really mind it or care at all, as long as it works well, which it seems to, because in my opinion, you're buying this car to drive it, not to play with technology. Something deep into the infotainment system that I found very peculiar was in the navigation settings, you can have it alert you for speed cameras. I guess Mazda knows who's buying these cars. You can also set it to avoid freeways, avoid toll roads, carpool lanes, etc., even unpaved roads and whatnot. So if you want to take a nice long ride in your Miata, but you don't want to go off-road and you don't want to hit the highway, you want to hit some nice curvy back roads, you can pre-program that into your navigation and then voila, you're all set. There are also several things in here that are so configurable, almost too configurable, honestly. Check this out, the blind spot monitoring system, you can have it at high, low, or just off. But with the lane departure warning, you can have it at in real time, I'm assuming what that means, or before. You can have the warning high or low. You can have the sound be a beep or a rumble. You can also change the volume of the sound, of course. I mean, do you need it to be this configurable? Whatever, I'd rather have it more configurable than not, I guess. Even the keyless lock beep volume, I mean, come on. This is almost starting to remind me of a German car that's over-engineered. We have our traction control off button and our lane keep assist off button right to the left of the steering wheel, easy access. The climate controls are also self-explanatory. Nothing is integrated into the infotainment system. They're good old traditional buttons and knobs, so that is a surefire win in my book. The USB ports and the aux jack are also easy to access, perfectly fine with this design. Moving on to the cup holders, they are absolutely brilliant. The cup holders can be pulled out and moved from behind your elbow at the back of the center console and placed in the passenger footwell if you would like easier access to your cup holder. Where Mazda didn't quite hit a home run though is the interior storage space, because there's pretty much none of it. We do not have a normal glove box, but we do get a lockable center glove box. Another awesome little touch from Mazda is that they kept the speakers in the headrest. As you can see right here, the little holes in the leather that allows the sound to come through the headrest. My 1990 NA has these too. It's very cool to see that Mazda still implements these to this day. It's a very neat little unique quirk of the MX-5. An interesting new quirk in the ND2 Miata is this engine temperature magnification feature. You can either have it from 200 to 260 it looks like, and to about 100 to 280. Why would you need this? I'm not quite sure. I kind of just want to know that I'm at optimal operating temperature and not overheating. Something else to note, just considering your passenger's legroom, is the passenger side floor hump. I'm most likely thinking it's something to do with the drivetrain or the chassis. Maybe it's a part of the bell housing of the transmission, but I can't imagine that it's that big they needed to do that. Nonetheless, just something to note, your passenger is going to have to shift their legs a little bit to be more comfortable sitting in this car. Another thing that this car has that I'm not quite sure is really necessary is the gear shift indicator. A shift light sounds great though, am I right? Problem with this one, it's not designed for performance driving. It's actually designed to give you the best fuel economy. Since it is not performance oriented, I presume that it's ignored by most Miata owners, as it should be. And now moving on to the trunk. Unfortunately, there's only 4.6 cubic feet of cargo space back here. Even though they did make the opening wider, you still can't really fit too much in it. Large luggage or golf clubs would kind of be a problem. However, a small load of groceries should be perfectly fine. It's a Miata, you can't expect too much out of it, right? Now, as far as the difference goes between the ND1 and the ND2, the ND1 being from 2015 until 2018, the ND2 being from 2019 on. They actually gave this car quite a lot of upgrades, most important being the bump in horsepower, of course, coming from 155 horsepower all the way up to 181. 26 extra horsepower doesn't sound like a lot on paper, but when you learn how Mazda actually implemented this into their new engine design, I think it's well worth it to splurge for an ND2 over an ND1. The main selling point being all of the revisions that they put into this engine. They gave it a larger throttle body, giving it 28% more airflow, an 18% larger intake and exhaust valves and ports, and a revised intake manifold. They also gave it a forged and rebalanced crankshaft, as well as forged pistons and connecting rods, making the metal components much stronger, thus being able to withstand higher loads and compression inside the engine. Forged metals are also a lot lighter, allowing the engine to rev higher, all the way up to 7,500 RPMs, with the less internal reciprocating mass it has to deal with. I mean, how cool is that, to have forged internals from the factory? They certainly know what type of enthusiasts are buying this car. Another wonderful upgrade that the ND2 got over the ND1 was an upgrade to a dual mass flywheel over a single mass flywheel. This was supposed to help cope with the vibrations that would come with this car at a higher redline, being at 7,500 RPMs. The ND1 only revved to 6,800. This is meant to put less stress on the transmission and help with reliability for the ND2, but in turn, many owners of ND2s have said that it prevents the car from being easy to rev match, and I have to agree with that. Regardless, you can really tell that Mazda put a lot of effort into this car and focused on the driving passion behind it. And now onto the drive, the most important part of this review, of course. Right away, there is no denying that this is a fantastic driver's car, pretty much as all Miatas are. If we are talking pure driving joy, the Miata is one of the best, truly. It's lively, spry, predictable, and balanced. The weight of the steering is a little bit light though. I wish that it felt a little bit heavier for this car. However, it is still very precise, and this car has tons of grip in corners. Even with these skinny little 205s, it is very, very planted. It oversteers just enough, almost the perfect amount. It's really great. And it carries speed so well through the corner if you have momentum coming into it. The flickability, so to speak, in and out of the corner is also pretty much unmatched to any other modern car, especially in this price range. There's a reason why they call Miatas momentum cars. It's not a lot of horsepower, but that allows you to give it everything you've got with this car once you are up to speed. And if you do it well, it rewards you handsomely. But it also doesn't have so much power that you can get into trouble that quickly unless you really do something reckless. Essentially, the Miata is a fantastic car for a young and aspiring driving enthusiast. As far as the engine and exhaust sound goes, it's not thrilling. I'm sorry, it just sounds like your typical old four-cylinder, nothing special at all. Personally, I wish it had a more exciting sound, but that's kind of hard to accomplish with just a typical naturally aspirated four-cylinder. Yeah, not tons of power. I would say that most enthusiasts, including myself, believe that the sounds that a vehicle makes is a critical part to the experience that it gives you. Speaking of sound, the Bose speakers in here are pretty good. Nothing that'll blow your socks off though. To be honest, I was expecting even a little bit better out of a Bose system. But nonetheless, this will suffice for most buyers. The wind and road noise with the top up wasn't that insulated really. Probably less noisy than the soft top, but still noisy nonetheless. Top down is as you would expect. Not bad at all for being a convertible. That's not a deal breaker to me because let's be real, if I'm driving this car, I'm probably gonna have the top down anyway. And the heated seats do maintain their setting when you shut the car off and turn it back on. You gotta love that. Yeah, I'm very comfortable in here. This is awesome, having a top down experience like this in the cold of winter of New England. So now I'm gonna put the top up. I'm gonna pull over real quick. You cannot operate the RF hardtop over 6 miles an hour. You pretty much have to be stopped, so you might as well just pull over and do it properly. The bumps aren't that harsh at all. Being in a car like this, you think the bumps would be bad. They're really not. Visibility is great. Obviously, I can see all around me so easily. The transmission is nice and notchy. The shifter feels great. The gear selector is also directly connected to the transmission, which is exactly what you want. It gives you a very mechanically linked feel. My NA Miata, to me, has one of the best feeling manual transmissions that I've ever driven because it just feels so analog. It's just so rewarding, giving you that satisfying feedback when you're rolling through the gears. Thankfully, in this case, Mazda has stayed true to their roots. However, I found that it was much easier to rev match with the RPMs being higher, indicative that this car likes to be driven hard, which is a good thing, but I found it a lot trickier to rev match when the RPMs were lower. So around town driving, just have to focus a little bit more and really flip that throttle to get that RPM to match just right with downshifting. Clearly the benefit of the single mass flywheel is showing over the dual mass flywheel, but that's okay. And that could just be me though. With some practice, I'm sure you can dial that in. On the other hand, the steering wheel though is very thin, much too thin for my liking. I feel like a car like this deserves a nice, thick, grippy and contoured steering wheel, especially with good hand grips at 9 and 3. It's probably the same steering wheel that Mazda used in all of their models across the board in 2020, and I feel like they dropped the ball and did the Miata a disservice by giving it the same steering wheel. However, I saw one fellow YouTuber, shout out to Drive MX-5, that upgraded his 30th anniversary edition ND steering wheel to one with much thicker grips along with some nice contours around it. That gentleman agreed with me that he did not like the stock steering wheel, and he says that this one made a night and day difference. This car is all about driving, and the one thing that you're touching 100% of the time needs to make you feel connected to it in a proper way. And as far as the power goes, on tight, twisty back roads, it is absolutely perfect. For straight line pulls though, you're going to be underwhelmed. This car is certainly not meant for the highway. I don't think any Miata is really. But back in the country, you're going to have an absolute boatload of fun. And the best part is, if you're just learning, there's a wide margin of error that you can push this car without necessarily ending up in a ditch or immediately in handcuffs. However, even for the more experienced drivers, this car is so rewarding to push through the corners that it'll still put a huge smile on your face. Despite how fun to drive the ND2 Miata is, it is still definitely not perfect. Forgive me, but I have to point these things out. The biggest thing for me probably is that super skinny, puny steering wheel. Thankfully, that's not too expensive of an upgrade and not too difficult of a fix, but makes an absolute world of a difference regarding your connection to the car. The second thing I'd like to point out that I don't like about this car, and this might come off as a big surprise to a lot of you, is actually how much body roll this car has. It is a vast amount considering what I was expecting out of a Miata, but apparently this car was designed to be like that, so the weight of the car is more unsprung in the dampers at the rear, specifically to set you up for the next corner. I can see how that probably prevents too much oversteer or snap oversteer, for instance, so that I can get behind. Other than that though, whatever way you swing it to me, body roll equals not good. However, this car can still be absolutely sent into and out of corners. It takes them no problem. It's just kind of a little bit of like a whoa feeling when you start to feel that body roll twist to the outside. This symptom is also easily correctable with some upgrades and still not a deal breaker. I bet a nice set of coilovers, some beefy sway bars, and some nice grippy thick tires would put this car in the top tier of handling ability and be able to blow sports cars that cost twice, if not 3 times as much, out of the water on tight, twisty back roads and autocross courses. All in all, the beauty of the ND2 MX-5 Miata, and really all Miatas in general, reminds me of the old saying, it's so much more fun to drive a slow car fast than drive a fast car slow. I know that's super cliche, but that statement really shines with this car. Here's my verdict. Is this car perfect? No. There are definitely a few things that could be upgraded and tweaked. However, is it still one of the best bang for your buck value sports cars out there? And more importantly, is it an utterly fantastic platform to build on, tune, and turn into a truly blissful modern sports car? Absolutely. Overall, I think it's a great looking car on the outside, and I also think Mazda did a knockout job on the inside too. For the driving enthusiast, whether you're a novice or an expert, that's why the MX-5 is so special, and the ND2 is no exception. Thank you all so much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed my little review of this 2020 Mazda MX-5 Miata RF Grand Touring. I have to thank Tasca Ford and Tasca Mazda of Seekonk so much for letting me borrow this car for the whole day and review it for you guys. They are a great dealership to work with, and if you want to come check out what they have in their inventory, I will put all of their contact information, including their website links, phone number, and address in the description below. Take care, guys. Stay safe out there. Remember to like and subscribe if you're a fan, and I'll catch you on the next one. Have a great rest of your day.